capes and conundrums. Everybody was gun-fu fighting, he sang as he slotted a specially engraved barrel into place and twists it until things line up. Those shots were fast as lightning. The weapon barrel is joined by a twin as the gunsmith hums more to the tune bouncing through his head. And it was a little bit frightening, but they shot with expert timing. The man finishes to himself, even as he slots on the custom weapon. All right, let's see those girls get a load of this. How did they simulate a blimp crashing for this? One of the Batwomen asks in a tone both awe-inspired and vaguely horrified. The nearby detective holds up a holographic projector that says "out of character" and chuckles. Factory defective spare parts bought on the cheap and a touch of pyrotechnics. "Oh, have you played anyone else yet?" the Batwoman asks, and the detective chuckles. "All new actors today. Our shifts have us rotating between the actors, people on actual soldier duty and people on break, to stop burnout and boredom. Any other questions before I put this away?" The generic detective asks, waving the projector saying, "out of character." "We're fine, thank you," one of the Batwomen says, and the projector is deactivated and tucked away in a pocket. The detective reaches into his coat and pulls out a cigarette. It's actually a fake that gives off a harmless light when he drags on it. He doesn't want to outright poison these girls. "Well, Batwomen, from what my crew has been able to put together, there was very little actual damage to the blimp before it crashed." He says to the crowd now that there's enough of them here for the fun to really begin. There's their hint, now they have to keep asking questions. Once they get far along enough in the investigation, the next stage will begin, and so does the lucky bastard who rolled a 7 on the dice. There's no questions, and he's vaguely disappointed as he turns away to regard the wreckages before an actual tourist walks up. "What's going on here?" the Canador woman asks, and he pulls out the out-of-character projector. The pale blue script juts baffles the new arrival. "A cross between a public event and improvised theater, ma'am. This whole city is very much into Batman-style comics, so there's a lot of fun and participation to Batman-style shenanigans. These women are playing the part of the Batman-style characters, and I'm in the supporting role of a police detective. They have to ask me questions and investigate the simulated crime scene to progress the story. Batman? A martial artist, detective, and basically a non-axiom using vigilante that goes up against a colorful collection of criminals that are far too resourceful and vicious for standard law enforcement. These events have simulated non-lethal combat, mysteries related to crimes to solve, and other bits of fun like that." "And you detective character is doing what?" the Canador asks. "I'm a support character. Like I said, I answer questions when asked, and since I have all the information they need to ask all the right questions in order to actually piece together the case and move to the next part." Can I join in?" she asks, and he pulls out a data chip. "Plug this into your communicator and it'll lead you to a site where it has the legal forms you need to read and sign. We keep this safe, but you can still get hurt, and this can also be terrifying," he says, and she takes the tiny bit of electronic storage from his palm with her claws. "Thank you, little." "Oh, you're not a threat, are you? This is a human thing, isn't it?" "It is," the detective says, and she smiles wide. "Oh, this will be fun. Try to find a character to play as. It adds to the experience." The detective offers, and she lets out a huff of amusement at that. "Detective," one of the Batwomen says, and he tucks away the projector. "Yes, Batwoman?" the detective asks blandly. "You mentioned that there was minimal damage before the crash. Can you be more specific? What kind of damage and where was it?" "Well, there is an entry hole for a bullet nearby the controls for this blimp, but the following damage would have hidden exactly what the bullet did afterwards." "A bullet?" the Batwoman asks, and he pulls out a small baggie with a still intact piece of ammunition. It's a massive bullet, but it's also pointedly not copper-jacketed. "Here." Whatever it's made of, it shredded whatever barrel it came out of and survived both hitting the blimp and the following crash. Unfortunately, it was toasted in the resulting fire of the crash, and that ate away at whatever damage it did and any hints from where it came. We haven't had a chance to run it through a lab yet, so I don't know what it's made out of, but whatever it is, it's tough. Don't these kinds of projectiles have markings in the side? The rifling marks. Normally, that's what tells us the bullet is so tough. Whatever it's made of, it's so much stronger than weapon firing it that the gun left no mark on it. That would destroy the aim, another Batwoman says, and the detective nods even as he inwardly smiles. Now for the fun part. It would, wouldn't it? It's almost like he begins and there's a bang and the small packages of fake blood on either side of his heart detonate and he collapses to the ground. The girls scream and the Canador starts laughing. "Did you really use savor sauce for fake blood?" she demands, and the projector comes out again. "Come on, lady, stay with it." The detective scolds her before turning off the projector and covering it with his dead hand. The protest only makes the woman laugh so hard she starts outright coughing and has to catch her breath. "What shot him?" one of the Batwomen asks, trying to get back into character. "What's going on?" another asks, and there's a bang and a yelp as a fountain of savor sauce suddenly erupts from the collar of one of the Batwomen, who outright screams in shock. "The sound came from that way," one Batwoman says, pointing to the left. "But the attack came from that way," another says, pointing to the right. "Wait, this is Deadshot," one of the girls exclaims, even as police rush up to help the injured Batwoman and guide her off as she's out. "Which way is he then?" one of the Batwomen demands, even as the Canador kneels down to be next to the detective and chuckles. "So, are they just going to get gunned down?" she asks, and he chuckles before revealing the out-of-character projector again and quickly typing something out on his communicator and passing it to her. She snorts in amusement when she reads that there's going to be a useless but highly visible aiming laser when they narrow down the general direction the shooter is in. "So is this to teach them anything?" she asks, passing back the communicator, and he taps out his answer in a hurry. She smiles when she reads, #1 rule, get the fucking cover. "Any other rules?" she asks, and hands back the communicator again, even as the girls scatter to try and avoid the sniper fire. She then laughs when she reads, #1 rule, the weapon is always about to fire. How many #1 rules are there? A lot. He answers with a laugh and gets another heavy laugh that prompts coughing in return. "Well, that's your brand of humor found." "I'm a simple girl," she says, looking around before pulling out a pair of goggles and slipping them on. "Ah, there we are." She then looks down as the detective gives her ankle a thump and she looks down into his disapproving frown. She holds up her hands, but it's already too late and several Batwomen indicate the direction she was looking at, which is what prompts a beam of red light to activate and start sweeping the area. A medic with a body bag comes to bring the detective out of there, and the out-of-character projection is enhanced, and the detective quickly shucks the long tan coat that he was wearing and the hat. He quickly cleans himself off with a few wipes, even as he and the Canador watch as the Batwomen start dashing from cover to cover and quickly flitting to physical blocks and staying well and truly out of the line of fire. So, how well do you think they'll do? Well, they've clearly got the right idea, and he's going to give them a chance based on that. This one is just a flashy show, not really threatening. You giving away his location with those goggles took away the main challenge. He was going to hit one of the girls every 3 minutes. There's a scream as one of the Batwomen gets shot, and he chuckles, which he's still sticking to somewhat. How good is he really? About as good as I am. Excuse me, Part 3 is starting shortly and I need to get into position. What? That Deadshot is a fake, Aerobot double. He explains, taking out a latex copy of his face, even as the medics bring out some dummies that are clearly dummies, but also are dressed up as officers to simulate a slaughter. He tosses the fake face onto the ground and puts on a mask and Googles. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get into my sniper's perch. Wait. I'm coming with you. I'll act as your muscle or something. This is hilarious. No. You're not part of it, and we'd have to stop all of them and get them to sign further forms if we were to add you mid-game. Although, if you want in on the goofiness next round, it can be easily done. The whole comic universe has all sorts of heroes and villains, and you can play either role if you want to. I'd like that, although there's not a lot that resembles Canador's. Doesn't Cheetah have super strength and speed with fur and such? Also, a big threat of eating people? You can have fun with that. Ew, I'm not going to eat a Sonier. I don't know where they've been, she protests, and he chuckles even as he gets moving. Right. Well, if you want to be part of this, then you can hang around but not taking part. Sound fair? It does, she says, and follows him even as he starts sprinting hard and begins scaling the nearest high-rise and then using a grappler line to zip across to the next one and then to another one beyond that. Why are you leaving the lines? She asks. They're the hints to where I am. I'm the level 2 dead shot. Level 1 is a very good shot that can bounce a bullet. Level 2 also has a hidden sniper's perch and will outright relocate if discovered. There's also less of a time delay before I make an honest attempt to take someone out, he says, and she considers. They have to chase you, and I'm going to lead them into a kill zone. The answer to that one is tossing in a smoke bomb and killing my line of sight before rushing me. Is there a higher level? She asks him. Of course. Level 3 does what I do, but without a sniper laser to show where I'm looking when they have my general direction. Level 4 doesn't have to wait between shots. It's going to be borderline impossible to actually stop a level 4. We have some very good snipers. I see, she says as he indicates a place above she can watch from as he pulls out a locked briefcase and opens it before assembling a rifle. More savor sauce shots? A proper gun will kill these kids. I'm just scaring them at worst, he says before he activates the googles and they extend to telescope his vision even as he focuses. All right, and now we wait for the signal. The flash of light and flare that goes up when Therabot Deadshot detonates is all the sign he needs, and he sights down the barrel and gauges the wind. He adjusts ever so slightly, raises his aim and goes to the left a touch, and gently squeezes the trigger. Both he and the Canador outright cackle as the Sonier he hits screams loudly enough for them to hear them blocks away. By the way, human, what's your name? I'm Sniper Pavel Zeman. You? Pavel asks, and she chuckles. My Ripfong. My answers, and he glances back. Nice to meet you. Speaking of meat, though, care to join me for a meal after this? I'm married, little man. Thank you for the offer, though. But what do you mean, speaking of meat? In one of the more popular languages on my homeworld, meat and meat sound the same. Ah, but you're in luck if you like my kind of lady. I have a sister's daughter that's just old enough to be interested. Really? He asks in an amused tone before he sights down the rifle again. Really? Ripfang is downright adorable, she says, and then chuckles as there's a scream from another Sonier that gets got by his shot. Sounds fun, he says, and she chuckles. Oh, vacationing on Skathak has been the best idea my husband's ever had, My says with a big smile.